Okay. First of all, thanks everybody. Thank you to everybody for showing up today. Got everybody here. It looks like. Can we call the roll for the committee?
Yes. Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Green.
Present.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Gunther.
Here.
Alderwoman Martin.
Here.
Alderwoman Navarro.
Here.
Chairman Arnowitz.
Present.
5 present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. We have 2 bills today, Board Bill 176 and Board Bill 169. If the alderman from the 21st doesn't mind, can we go through the health one first? Because we're going to be talking about your bill today.
Why? No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, we want to discuss your bill, don't we? We want to get it right. Board Bill 176 is basically what Board Bill 176 is it's in a 3-year Cooperative Agreement Award of $737,000 from the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, U.S. Department of Justice. And what this does is it offers the health department to get this grant and implement some things that's really needed here in the city. So Craig Schmidt is here on behalf of the health department, and he wants to elaborate on the bill.
All right. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, first of all, thank you for being here once again. I appreciate it very much. So this is the health approach as opposed to the law enforcement approach to youth crime and providing opportunities for our youth. There's currently a youth violence prevention partnership that we have, but we really need some of the infrastructure that goes with that. Ready by 21, you may have heard of Ready by 21 already. They're with the United Way, and so they will be providing some of that support along with Washington University, who's doing an assessment of this. Initially, we applied for, and the mayor's office and Carl Filler was a major part of this for applying for this grant. We thought it was going to be a 12-month planning grant. What they did instead is they gave us a 3-year with the expectation that we're going to try to do some implementation as part of that. What I'm excited about is that this would give us an opportunity to more fully go out and try to get the youth voice. We have a youth violence prevention partnership that meets at 10 o'clock generally, actually 9 o'clock on a Tuesday during the day, so it's difficult to get that youth voice. We want to do something like perhaps what Project Launch did with their cafes where they brought folks together, but that takes some infrastructure and people working together for that to occur. We do not know what that strategic plan is going to be, that we have to develop a 5-year strategic plan. We need to do that within a year, and so then we'll be able to begin to implement that in the next 2 years after that. So part of that strategic plan will also be looking for sustainability. What we need to do is not complicated, but it is complex. So there's a lot of different layers looking at the risk and protective factors that we need to build into any plan with these overarching things of safety and well-being and reducing violence and promoting healing. I did attach to your in addition to the general things with a lot of executive summaries and so forth, attached toward the back, and you have it in color, is the violence prevention data brief. Part of what I'm trying to do is make sure as we go out and let people know some of the, obviously you all know what the homicide data are and some of the programs that are currently existing, and then toward the end what we should really be doing in terms of treating violence as a public health crisis. And trying to interrupt some of those cycles with the transmission of violence, some of the things that lead to that, and how we can try to work on some of that. And lastly, at the very end, there's a nice little article from Joe Yancey that talks about healing our children, healing our community, because a lot of what is happening is being created by or through individuals who have been experienced a great deal of trauma, adverse childhood experiences, and So it's important for us to try to treat it that way. This is not the end-all and be-all. $700,000 is not going to resolve all of our issues. It's an opportunity for us to really take a look at this, have the infrastructure in place, try to put a dashboard in place to know where we are and where we need to go. And then, you know, we all know that there's things like opportunities at rec centers and jobs and education and all the rest that we need to be doing a better job with. That's really all I have.
Okay, thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
I'll go down the list if any aldermen have any questions. Alderwoman Green?
Yeah, thank you for coming today. We met not too long ago, and can you remind me, how much has the health department been cut by in the last?
You know, I'm not
2
the
years.
director, but it has been cut.
I think it was about $1 million over the last 2 years. Do you?
But what I do know is that the director constantly reminds us we need to do more with less. and
Yes.
We're doing that.
So how will this kind of fill some of those
It will-
budget gaps?
It will not. There's an anticipated 10% for part of my salary to do this, but the bulk of this is going to be going for that infrastructure
Okay.
to begin to build some of that structure, which we don't have, to kind of focus in on that and to go out and really try to bring in that youth voice and to try to bring in community participation.
So once that infrastructure is built, then
Right.
are we going to need to find additional funding to be able to actually make it work?
Yeah, one hopes that over time we will continue to recognize that it is a public health aspect and not a law enforcement aspect. So it's difficult, right? We've come to this position because we haven't funded over time a lot of the things that we should be funding. As a result, then we're looking for resolution of that by hiring more police. Who don't solve crime, but what they do is they investigate crime. So we could solve crime better if we were doing some of these other things. So do we have enough money to do the things early on in terms of prevention, early intervention? Or are we going to keep spending at the back end? So, yeah, the answer to your question is yes. Where's that going to come from? I don't know the answer to that, and we can't really keep doing this on a grant-funded basis because that's not truly sustainable either.
Right. So then, do you have any idea of, looking to the future, like when the infrastructure would be in place, and then by when we need to be starting to look at finding another funding stream to support that?
Yeah, so we're planning on hiring that individual for the backbone support through Ready by 21 with probably at least by the end of this year, getting really going. Next year, we will be doing the plan during the next year. That doesn't mean everything's coming to a screeching halt because there's a lot of things that are going on, obviously. We need to continue to establish priorities. And then after that, so in 2019 and 2020 would be the implementation of this plan. So we should be looking during 2018 to see if there's any way to fund any of that. I can't tell you whether that's going to be found to do that. But that's been one of our issues, is getting that traction.
Yes, because state and federal money is also getting cut.
It is going to be, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate this.
Thank you. Appreciate your support.
Thank you. Alderwoman Spencer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Craig, for being here. I agree with Alderman Green. This is a great program. So this, I'm sorry I missed the beginning. This $737,000, this is directly from the...
OJJ,
Okay, so
Office of Juvenile Justice Delinquency.
this is the entirety of a grant
That's the entirety for the 3 years.
for the
Yes.
3 years. So then it's like $250,000 a year or something like that?
Yes, right.
Okay. Boy, we're going to have to figure out a way to fund these things. Do we have, can we sort of develop an annual review of this so that we can take a look at this next year, see where we're at, not only how the program is working, but long-term view on funding and making sure that we're using this grant to the best of our ability, and then, having a plan moving forward.
Right, so we do have Washington University Medical School. Dr. Price is part of this.
Okay.
It's not going to, she's not going to do a full kind of thing, but we should have a report every year on this, yes.
Okay. This is unrelated to this particular grant, but I did see in the news last week that St. Louis County received a $1.1 million grant on opiate work.
And we are working with them, Alderwoman. They have the staff, but we've been doing a lot of projects together. As you know, we participate in the prescription drug monitoring
yeah.
program. And there's other programs, obviously, CRUSH meets out there as well, the Community Resources United to Stop Heroin and others. So there's a lot of effort, even though we don't have the personnel specifically in our shop, we are working across those county boundaries.
Is there an opportunity for the city to apply for grants along those lines as well? I mean, I know we've had 188 homicides last year, but we had 260 deaths by overdose
Right, correct.
last year.
So yes, there are. What we try to do is we try to make sure who's in the best position to do what. So as Alderwoman Green mentioned, over the years we've been cut. And so St. Louis County does have the resources fiscally and so forth to take a lot of those on, and then we get to share in terms of working together in terms of the strategies and processes. So sometimes it's much better for them to have that. Certainly we gain the benefits of the prescription drug monitoring program, and we don't have to have staff that are dedicated to doing that, even though we're looking at getting a part-time 0.5 epidemiologist to try to make sure that we can do part of that on our end.
Okay.
So sometimes it's much better just building on what the capacity that they have as opposed to us trying to recreate that capacity.
We do pay for that collaboration.
They got a grant as well. We were fortunate enough, and we supported them in that. And so the counties that are signing on, initially there was a cost to that, you're absolutely correct. But the grant is going to allow us, I believe it's for 2 years, to not have a cost to that.
Okay.
So you really can't beat that, I don't think. They have the infrastructure, they're working on that, we're participating in that, we're getting the information, and we're not paying for any of it, at least for 2 years.
Back to the juvenile stuff.
Yes.
I'm seeing here that there's some collaboration with the police department, the law enforcement
We always need
arm.
to collaborate
Yeah.
with the police.
Well, so Sergeant Perry Johnson used to be
Yes.
over juvenile, and I
Now,
understand he's...
Captain.
Say that again?
Captain Perry Johnson.
I'm sorry, that's right.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah. So he got promoted, right? And so he's no longer over juvenile, right?
I believe he's still.
Is he
yeah,
still over
he is.
juvenile? So he's doing outreach
then
and
And
juvenile.
then Sergeant Allen is also there working under juvenile. He has a lot more than just juvenile. He's doing some of the outreach. and
Right.
gang, yeah.
So the day-to-day sort of juvenile,
It's going to be Lieutenant Allen, is my understanding.
what's Alan's first name? I don't know. There's a lot of Alans on the police.
She's a very tall lady. She's
Yeah.
excellent.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
she
couldn't
is
think of a
great.
better person than
Yeah.
her.
Would you mind sharing her contact information? I know we
Yeah.
reached out to Captain Johnson from time to time on juvenile issues, and it's so helpful to have a juvenile contact within the police department. They still have a presence on Cherokee Street, am I right? And then, is that right? At the courts, yeah. I mean, but
Kimberly Allen is her name.
Kimberly Allen, okay.
I just know her as Allen. Lieutenant, I believe. Lieutenant Allen.
It might be helpful, so if there's ever an opportunity to, if there is an opportunity in the future to have any outreach to the community, please reach out to us. I'm sure we'd love to have folks come and talk at our neighborhood meetings or whatever about it. So,
Great.
okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Gunther?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a whole lot that hasn't already been said, but just help me kind of understand this a little better. So you got a 3-year agreement
Correct.
for the money, but then you're creating a 5-year strategic plan. So it's like
Correct.
you have 3 years to create a plan, 5 years
Yeah,
after
we
that.
have 1 year to create the plan,
Okay.
2 years to implement with their funding, and then we're on our own.
So then the
And
last
to be
2
honest with
years
you,
of
we
the-
could develop a plan And I'm not saying that I know this is going to be the case, but we often hear these things. I mean, folks are looking for hope, they're looking for opportunity, they're looking for jobs, they're looking for training, they're looking for recreational opportunities, all of those. Those may be in there in addition to this, how do we get people working together with each other in engagement? And we're not going to have funding for that either. But hopefully we'll continue to have that funding to keep bringing people together and getting their input and their involvement in terms of going forward. I was just at something yesterday, and I'm trying to remember his name. He's with Hood Hunters, I think it is, and his, unless the youth are doing this peer-to-peer, they really don't care what, any of us in this room are not really going to change these behaviors and move things forward. So that's the kind of thing that we're trying to work for. Hopefully this will allow us to do that. It will not allow us to keep a rec center open, for instance. And that is something that I think is really important.
Okay. All right, and then the plan is just targeted towards the 15 peer neighborhoods. So, I understand that,
Yeah, and the plan may in fact come out where it's limited to even fewer than those. Sometimes we go to the very topmost troubled areas. It all depends on the strategy and how that comes to pass. But we really can't deal with 79 neighborhoods, right? So we're going to look at those 15 to begin with.
if you were to narrow it down to fewer neighborhoods that you guys
Yeah,
just
that
had-
would be a decision by whoever we bring together to do that.
Okay. And then hopefully you'll let us know that you narrowed it down to.
Right, that would be in the plan, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, no further questions.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderwoman Martin,
No question.
Alderwoman Navarro.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Craig. I'm really encouraged that we're looking at youth violence from a health perspective. My question just has to do with, so that 5-year plan that we're going to put together, will future funding be part of that plan? No, okay, so that's not part of that. Are there any other opportunities that you see where we can leverage this, either as matching funds for something else?
So that's my hope. Yes, that's my hope, that we could try to leverage some additional funding. Sometimes funders, as you know, like it that somebody else has some skin in the game and they're ready to go.
Right, sometimes, the best time to find funding is right after you get
Right.
a little bit and say, we're
Right.
going to get some momentum going, and then,
Correct.
we need somebody to keep the ball
Right.
going.
And where that's going to come from, a lot of philanthropic groups. As you know, the community more and more is aware. I don't think we have necessarily an awareness problem, although sometimes if you say to some people, this is a public health crisis, they're like, what do you mean? I think this is a law enforcement crisis. So there is still some of that, but I think more and more people recognize that. Now we got to go to the next step. So how do we assemble our priorities and our policy and our systems changes to reflect the fact that we recognize that we have hurt people out there and they're angry, upset, and sort of lashing out frequently and just surviving.
And how will the plan be shared with the public?
So we're hoping to do that through, and they've got a dashboard provision here to try to set that up. We're also in the health department, we have a dashboard in terms of putting forward our community health assessment and our community health improvement plan. So that's another opportunity for us to do that. So those are at least a couple opportunities.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Alderman Muhammad, since you're here, did you have any questions? I didn't want to disrespect you, you showed up.
That are relevant to this, sir.
Nice glasses. I don't have any questions, sir.
Okay, thank you. So Craig, yeah, I mean, it's great we're recognizing this as a health problem, probably more than anything. And hopefully as it moves on, so you would suggest, as the Alderwoman asked, we need to start ahead of time looking for funding to keep this going. So you would suggest in 2018 is when we need to start looking at funding for the following year?
At the very least.
And then, and I guess...
Alderman, I know that you guys are constantly looking at this. So you're looking at the rec centers, you're looking at
Right.
training opportunities. I know Slate is doing a lot of things and so forth. So,
Okay.
so there's a lot of balls moving.
Right. So, but I guess your department, will you keep us informed as this is moving forward? Because I think that'd be helpful for all of us here, you know, what we can do on our end. So, but I appreciate you taking the time and coming down. I think it's important that we, you know, I'm just happy that we're getting a grant, and I know we're on a deadline to get it passed, to be eligible for it and get it, so. If no one else has any other further questions, entertain a motion to pass Board Bill 176 out. Been moved and seconded. And clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Right.
Alderman Gunther.
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin.
Aye.
Alderwoman Navarro.
Aye.
Chairman Arnowitz.
Aye.
6 aye votes to pass.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Everybody's coughing around here.
Do you have any free medicine?
It won't go away.
I had that for like 2 months.
Yeah.
It was crazy. We've all had it now. It finally goes
Will not go
away.
away.
Right there, I need to try to follow. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And while we're here, Alderman Mohammed has Board Bill 169, and we thought by at least having a hearing, we can kind of get conversation going. I know there's still a lot of people that want to come and testify in favor of this bill, so we just kind of want to get the conversation started as we go along.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I do not intend for this board bill to be voted out today. However, I did not know that this bill was going to be given to a committee where everybody here is green thumbs. It definitely makes it harder. But when you read the language, it's pretty simple and pretty straightforward. And I think all you guys have an understanding on the purpose and the goal of this bill. And it's just to encourage urban agriculture, especially in our city's urban neighborhoods. The bill is actually an idea I took from the city of New York. They have a large land bank, so many vacant lots, vacant parcels, that they want to come up with an idea to do something with it. And their city council proposed this measure 2 years ago. I saw it, thought it was a great idea, and boom, here we are today on this beautiful Thursday morning. So I'll just ask you guys to look at the idea, understand the vision that I have for it, and let's go forward from there. But again, I do not intend for this to be passed out of committee today.
And Alderman, I know there's a lot of support out there for it, and I think as we move along with it, we just want to get it right. You know, like I say, I've been getting a lot of emails and supporting for this bill when time comes. So, and there's other people who want to come down in favor and talk about it, the advantages of it and everything else. So, I'm glad you picked the idea up, kept rolling with it. So that's a good sign. I didn't know if you was thinking the green thumb because of St. Mary's or not.
Best high school in the world, right?
Dragons. But anyway, I'll ask. Alderwoman Green, is there anything that you want to add, or?
I'm just curious, what urban agriculture groups have you worked with?
Absolutely none.
Okay.
Absolutely none. Honestly, didn't even know they existed in the city.
Okay. In the future, could we maybe have some of them come before us?
Yeah.
Or, you know, if we're looking at asking for a plan to be created, it seems like some of the groups that are working on that plan should maybe help in drafting the legislation to get us there. Are
Okay.
you amenable to that?
Say it again. What was the last
Just
one?
having some of the groups that are working on this issue, and I'm sure myself and Alderwoman Spencer, well, almost all of us around this table would be willing to help connect you with some of the groups that are doing urban agriculture to make sure we have some input from them on kind of the components of the plan.
Okay.
Okay? That's it.
Alderwoman Spencer, you got a green thumb, so you know.
Well, I don't know about that. I cleaned my thumbs off pretty good, so they're nice and shiny. No, I think this is great. I mean, we have so much vacant land, and, you know, whether you have a green thumb or not, I think you certainly, I think showing an interest or showing a a commitment to working on urban farming issues is one that will certainly positively impact your ward, along with most of our wards. So this is a really good thing. You know, I know several organizations were reaching out and kind of talking about what a great thing it is that somebody new on the board was also championing this, and I think it's a really great thing. So again, I'd be happy to help in any way. I do have I guess one of my concerns with coming up with a plan like this might be that some of our city agencies might look at it from a city perspective rather than an advocacy perspective, and it would be helpful to have the folks that are in the urban farming and all those folks kind of driving it. But I think, you know, one of the unsung heroes in urban farming that we haven't really had a huge relationship here in the city, which I think this is a really great opportunity to bring them into the fray, is Harris-Stowe University, who has the only urban farming, urban agriculture program in the state of Missouri. And, you know, they would be a great partner for you because they're an institution that studies urban farming and urban agriculture. And I think bringing them into the fray is something that this Board of Aldermen, we attempted last year somewhat when we did the chicken bill, but given the time restraints of passing that, didn't have the opportunity to really bring them on board with sort of developing policy for the city. And anytime you can bring a university into policy direction is a really, really, really good thing. And so I support this idea wholeheartedly. I think it's great that we're looking at urban farming as a way to put to use some of our vacant land, and I think it's great that you brought it forward. Looking at other cities is a great way to start. So, yep. Do we want to discuss like the aspects of this today, or are we just sort of saying like, this is a great idea and perhaps we could kind of create a working group to, I mean, this would be such a long-term, this is such a long-term vision that it might take a little while to get to an end result. I don't know that, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, if setting us up for, are we just discussing that?
Well, I guess my hope is just starting a discussion who we need to get involved from the outside, come down and we can hear testimony, you know, from like Harris-Stowe or whoever.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, that might look like a working relationship. They haven't, you know, in speaking with their dean over there, they haven't been driving urban agriculture policy per se, but I think that would be a great opportunity to. Washington University has done some policy-driven stuff, but there's an opportunity for collaborations across multiple.
Right.
Yeah, I think, even on a state level too.
Yeah.
people are
Exactly.
trying.
And I think by us just starting the conversation, who we need to get involved is the way to move forward. So, and that's basically what I'm hoping to do. Because I think the bill's important, so we want to hear from everybody. And, you know, like I said, I know the bill has a lot of support. It just helps us, the more support we get from different universities and everything else that knows about this and can give the right information out and help our cause. So
I think the timing's right for it. You know, we tried to do a chicken bill 2 years ago and it failed, and then we got one through last year. I feel like the momentum is moving in the right direction, so this is perfect timing, I think, to start the conversation.
and we can also out of the committee there, if we want to, you know, meet once a week or something, and with the ideas who we want to get in touch with, we can get letters sent out to them and things like that. So, I mean, I'm very easy to work with.
I see that.
You talked me into your chicken bill the second time around.
We did. We didn't have you the first time, did we?
Anyway, Alderman Gunther.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, so yesterday, when we did not have a quorum, myself, the sponsor, Alderman Muhammad, Alderwoman Navarro, and some of the people that did show up to testify yesterday sat around afterwards to try to talk out how we wanted to go about this. Because there is, the idea presented by Alderman Muhammad here is a very kind of skimmed down version of what we really would like to see going forward in the city. So I don't know if, I don't want to take away John, or Alderman Muhammad's thunder here, but we had discussed next Tuesday having a meeting with the Food Policy Coalition, inviting LRA, because part of this is LRA is going to have to buy into it. Green City Coalition, which is another one of the groups that is working on coming up with a comprehensive plan for agriculture in the city. There's green, growing green.
Yes.
A couple other organizations were here as well that we had discussed, kind of all inviting to the table. And I like the recommendation of starting like a working group for this. We don't have to rush this through. This is something that when I was working in the sustainability office for the city, it is part of our city's sustainability plan. So there are a number of pieces of this that have been kind of worked on in separate groups that we kind of need to pull together to make a bill that actually stands for something and actually does provide agriculture zones through the city and stuff like that. So I'll just reiterate that I am in favor of this 100%. I appreciate Alderman Muhammad's ability to just say, hey, let's run with this. And I would hope that you were going to send out a calendar invitation. So I think maybe we could just, with the people in the room today, we can go ahead and give you more names of people that have been working on urban agriculture in the city and send out an invite to try to bring everyone to the table that have been working on this so that we can create a bill that would really provide a true comprehensive plan, as well as also get the city departments on board, like Alderman Spencer said. So I'm in favor of it, but I do think we are at the first step of creating something that is really a comprehensive plan.
I mean, and to be fair to the ordinance here, it does state that the plan would be in conjunction with agencies and stakeholders. So I think the intention, it's clear that the intention was to do that. And I think that the first step, obviously, in doing that is just deciding to do it. And that's what, I mean, that's the way I read the intention here, and I commend that. I think it's the right way to do it.
Thank you. Alderwoman Martin?
No questions or comments.
I love saying this name. Alderwoman Navarro.
You love saying that name?
I don't know, just something about it. I don't know.
You should say Nevada.
It's not Italian, it's not.
Well, thank you. I am also 100% in support of an urban ag plan, so I'm grateful that you've taken the initiative to get this ball rolling. And as you know, you've learned about the Food Policy Coalition a little bit yesterday, and I think that we do have a lot of partners who could probably take on some of this, who have done some of it and are equipped to do some of this on behalf of the city. And I wonder if it's a possibility that, because this would have the planning, Department of Planning and Urban Design come up with a plan, is it also a possibility that a plan could be created by the stakeholder group, by somebody like the Food Policy Coalition, who could be funded by somebody like Missouri Foundation for Health to do it, if that's a possibility, because I do know that to do a plan is going to take money, and if it has to be done through the city, or if you think it could be done through some of those local groups who would then present a plan either to Department of Planning or to the Board of Aldermen.
Well,
Did that question make sense?
yeah, so,
Okay.
so the legislation is only pretty much directing the Department of Urban Planning to assemble a plan together. I guess it's up to them whoever they bring to the table or not. And the legislation just says that they will present a plan to the Board of Aldermen by July of next year. So I mean, it'll be up to that department on whoever they have leading the effort to bring in stakeholders or different community organizations.
Yeah, and because
I wouldn't be against it,
Yeah.
for it.
Sure, and because I'm new and I don't necessarily know how this works, how does
Makes
that
two
get
of us.
funded? Well, I'm even newer. How does that get funded to do the plan? And part of it just is my learning curve here has been that there's a lot of plans that the city would like to see happen, and how do we get them to prioritize this plan over the other plans that they want to get done?
If I may, the City of St. Louis's planning department is woefully, horrifyingly underfunded. We put more money towards printing than we do towards planning in the city. So they have a budget of $500,000 a year, basically. They have some additional funding from federal grants, but primarily they're very, very underfunded, and we don't have neighborhood plans. That's why we don't have business plans. We don't have any planning. So to your point, I think if we direct them without a funding mechanism, this would be strapping them this would be asking them to do something they're ill-equipped to do. But that's where we can kind of come back with this working group and say how, and the other issue too is if we put it directly on the planning department, we might get an urban farming plan that works within the current confines of city government and may not reflect the best practices of the stakeholder group. So for example, it would be ideal if there's a way to draw in some funding for planning, I think, from an outside organization like the Missouri Foundation for Health or other organizations to help, because my concern would be that if we just kind of plunk it in the planning department, they're going to come up with whatever they're going to be able to scrounge around with their own internal lack of resources, and it might not look like the state-of-the-art forward-thinking plan that the city deserves and that we should maybe try to get. And that's no fault of the Board of Aldermen necessarily, but simply a budgetary issue for the planning department, being horribly understaffed and underfunded and that's a larger problem that we should talk about, I think, in this city, complete lack of funding for our planning department, because I think to look at another city being able to just direct their planning department to be able to do something like this makes sense. And the city of St. Louis really should be able to direct its planning department to go and direct a plan like this. And unfortunately, we just don't have the planning department to do that.
No,
But
and I agree, and the hope is maybe we can bring some people on board that might help with funding.
a plan.
So,
Yeah, and
hopefully, you never know. Maybe Rex will give us money for it. I doubt it, but.
Well, and my question comes from, through Missouri Coalition for the Environment, they had to hire somebody full-time to work on urban agriculture, and a big piece of that was supporting the legislation last year for the chicken bill. And so just knowing what it takes to get a plan to do something small and incremental. So I'm just bringing that experience to the table, that it takes a full-time person to do that. And so I look at this and I love the idea, and then I think practically, how do we get that done? And I think bringing those partners in makes a lot of sense, because they can do a lot of that legwork. And I wouldn't want the plan to be limited, as Alderman Spencer said, that by the city's limitations.
Yeah.
I want this to be as successful as it possibly can.
And we should look for ways to fund our planning department.
Yeah.
So that we can direct them to do stuff for us. Yes.
Yeah.
That is the larger problem here, but.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd, do you think this bill needs a fiscal note attached to it?
I think just what was discussed with the chicken bill, I think the organizations, if we're doing something that furthers their mission, I think they will, volunteer resources and time, I would think, to help with it. If it becomes a budget issue, we can just bring it up in next year's budget, but I don't, what's the timeline we're giving them?
I would think
July.
Mr. Chairman, if you may.
I would think that, just like with the chicken bill, we didn't have to, other people, other organizations kind of volunteer information for and help craft it because it's something that they wanted to see as part of their mission. That was just my.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, we did have a fiscal note with the chicken bill, and that was not directing the policy of the chicken, but it was saying, that it was kind of everything evened out with the fees for the, all that sort of thing. But with this, if we did include a fiscal note, what would be helpful about that would be to say that we're anticipating that the planning department doesn't necessarily need to put resources, that we're going to lean on the organizations and the stakeholders to come with real planning. Or if we do decide that we want somebody with that we kind of, that way it really directs, it helps to actually really solidify what is actually being done by the city. So I would think a fiscal note would be helpful in directing how the work is actually getting done from the functional perspective.
Okay, but well, just to answer the question about the fiscal note, from the ordinance we passed, if the determination is it's not going to affect this year's budget, then you don't really need to attach.
Well, but the ordinance does direct the planning and urban, it does currently direct a department to do work. So we might want to put it in there and kind of clarify that, look, we're going to lean on the outside organizations or that sort of thing.
Yeah, Mr.
I
Chairman,
mean, you could put a fiscal note with a zero, but it does not cost them anything. It's not.
But if it's directing a department to take significant action, it actually is going to cost the city something.
Really don't hire anybody.
Well, Mr. Chairman, can I?
But I'm just saying, if the
Sure.
determination is it's not going to cost us anything, then we don't need a fiscal note.
running off the same thing here, that the last point here of creating an office of urban agriculture, wouldn't that would be asking for the following year that we would be hiring someone if we're creating an office of urban agriculture? There should be a fiscal note.
For the current.
But it's the feasibility too.
Yeah,
It doesn't say that it's demanding an office to be created. It's a feasibility, possibility, optimistic.
Alderman.
In terms of, with this having a deadline of July 1, 2018, as someone who works for a nonprofit, if we are looking for nonprofits to step in and do some of this work, they have to have funding to do that. There's not a grant cycle that is going to get them, but chances are, unless they're already funded to do this, it's going to be really hard, I would think, for nonprofits to pivot from what they're doing and also get additional resources to be able to work on this. And I do think to do it well, it's going to require time. It's going to require somebody to coordinate it, whether it's Department of Planning or whether it's a nonprofit, and that's going to require somebody to fund that person. I don't think we could rely on somebody stepping up voluntarily to do it well. And nonprofits, July 2018, grant cycles generally don't work that. There's not that quick of a turnaround. I just don't want us to rely on that.
Well,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if we can maybe convene a stakeholder meeting and kind of hash some of this
That's what
stuff
I think,
out and
yeah.
with a larger group. But
And then come back and say, okay, based on what we know now, either this deadline is feasible because we know items 1 through 3 are done, or you know what, we really need, I just think we just need to know what's already out there in order to come up with a deadline that we can meet and know what resources are available.
Yes. Anybody else have anything?
Well, I would just add, are you saying next Tuesday's meeting as being the first working group meeting? Is that right? And are you comfortable sending out the invitation to that, or would you rather someone else?
Maybe sent out. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
thank you.
You get them out and try and meet next Tuesday. Yeah. Let me ask everybody while they're here, is there a time better than others for you to be able to come? Is mornings, mid-mornings, or early afternoons, or?
I often reserve mornings for committee hearings.
Okay.
And understand that afternoons are generally just for basking in the sun
Yeah.
of my second job.
For gardening.
I'm kidding.
Okay.
But it's helpful, I mean, you're right, I'm throwing that out there.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that. Okay,
Kick it back,
I
right?
guess if there's nothing further at this time, I'll set a time, probably 10 o'clock next Tuesday to meet again and we can get some people in here, and Alderman, you gonna take care?
Do we, with all due respect, I don't think we need to have a committee hearing with the
Right.
stakeholders.
I would ask for a committee hearing to be delayed until
Okay.
2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, and then we just work together and whatever we can do. I mean, Alderwoman Green and Spencer and Navarro and Martin and Dan, I mean,
Whatever.
anybody else you think we can send it out to, I think the more the merrier. What do you think? So,
I mean, this is a great opportunity to bring a lot of people to champion it and
Yeah.
move forward.
I'd rather see some things done with empty lots than just sitting there and just getting full of trash. So, all right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
move
Chair.
that
Oh.
we adjourn this meeting.
Yes.
Thank you.